I'm with the ICC Chief Executive, David Richardson. David, it's the end of the ICC World 2020 for 2016, the last day. Are you happy with the way things have gone?
I think it's turned out really well from a logistical perspective and a cricket perspective. There were some concerns that the lateness in finalising the match schedule, the venues, would cause some challenges, but they've been overcome, fortunately. And the cricket, I think, has been superb. Very interesting. I think brought about by some unusual pitches, barring one or two which were probably too spinner-friendly and didn't come onto the bat well enough. The rest of the pitches, I think, have been quite unique for the subcontinent and have provided some really interesting cricket. Very competitive cricket as well. Lots of evenly matched teams going down to the wire in a number of matches, both the men's and women.
Are you happy with the format? Because obviously you switched to a 16-team format with the men a couple of years ago in Bangladesh. It worked very well there because obviously Bangladesh was part of that first round, and in addition to that there were big crowds. Not such great crowds in the first round this time. Has it worked?
I think the format itself works. Whether we promoted those first round matches well enough, that's a question we need to answer at a later stage and review it. I'd like to think that the format has worked in that all the matches at first round, second round, it's designed to create even contests between the teams, and to that extent it's worked exceptionally well. Whether we move to perhaps increasing the size of the tournament by adding one or two teams, one team to each group in that first round, I think if we can do that, number one, we'll provide more opportunities to other teams. But number two, if you do lose two matches, you've still got a chance in a group of five, whereas in a group of four, you're dead and buried. And that might be useful. And then even maybe increasing the number of, instead of having a Super 10, have a Super 12 maybe, which will again increase the number of matches, but I think it will give more opportunities for the associate members to participate in the second round of the tournament itself.
You mentioned the associates. There was a big complaint from them at the end of the first round about the fact that, hang about, we've qualified for this tournament already, and then we've just played a handful of matches, and then we're discarded, and there isn't another tournament for another 4 years. Can you sympathise with their perspective?
Yes and no. Don't forget the first round, although it wasn't as well attended as we would have liked, is part of the tournament. So they qualified for the tournament. They went through it. They had to compete to get into the tournament with some, with other teams. And it's a bit like, Wimbledon or any of these major tournaments where you go through pre-qualifying sometimes, you make the tournament itself, and unfortunately, you lose in the first round and you're on your way. So, I think on the one hand, we want to provide more opportunities for the associate members. We want to try and achieve more competitive teams at the highest level. But on the other hand, if you're an associate member player, you play for Scotland or Holland, the ICC pays for you to go and play in the Intercontinental Cup and the World Cricket League Championship, play in ICC events from time to time. It's not all bad. And so I think we must try and avoid a sense of entitlement, whether it's from the associate members or the full members.
You mentioned about more opportunities, but of course the other bugbear they have is the fact this tournament's switched now to a 4-year cycle rather than a 2-year cycle. Are you content thinking about that?
I think the thinking behind that is simply that we've got 3 formats of the game, and why favour one format above the other? The danger, of course, is that we keep pushing T20 and we keep playing T20 events every 2 years, and it will effectively cannibalise the other 2. And we want to make sure that we keep an even balance and a more reasonable balance between the 3 formats, and hence the decision to go with one men's World T20 in a 4-year cycle. It's slightly different for the women's because they effectively really only play 50-over cricket and T20 cricket, and for that reason we've got a standalone women's event, T20 event happening every 2 years.
Does that sit okay with the fact that the 50-over version of the World Cup is now going to be just 10 teams, or it is at the moment anyway, pending any amendment by the board? Does that sit well there then in that case?
Well, again, the reason to go to a 10-team tournament was done for a number of reasons some time back. Number one, probably it was a format that would generate more competitive cricket. And secondly, more value. If we're honest with ourselves, a tournament which involves guaranteed 9 Indian matches is worth substantially more than a tournament with less Indian matches. And of course, the money that's generated from that event is for the benefit of all members, including all the associate members. I've always liked to think that the global events, be they World T20 or the Cricket World Cup itself, are the showpiece for that particular format. And as long as, whether it's 10 teams, 12 teams, or 14 teams, there's always going to be a 15th team that's upset, or a 13th team, or an 11th team. And as long as everybody's got the opportunity to qualify, no matter whether you're an associate member or even an affiliate member, as Afghanistan have done in the past, then to me that's fair. And yes, I think, as we've said, we want to have more competitive teams at the highest level. We want to give more opportunities, playing opportunities, to the likes of Ireland and Afghanistan, who have been consistently at the top of the tree amongst the AMs on a year-by-year basis in the FTP. And hopefully they will qualify as of right for a 10-team tournament or a 12 or a 14.
Of course, on the other side of the coin, you've expanded this women's competition. This is the first time we've had 10 teams as opposed to 8 in the women's competition. Has that worked?
I think that certainly the teams that were added to the competition, Bangladesh, Ireland, didn't disgrace themselves. I think they've got some work to do in catching up to the other 8. But it's something for them to work on now. The women's game is going from strength to strength. I think this tournament, the fact that it's combined with the men's, has done a wonderful job in helping the women's game grow and increasing the profile of the women's event. To the extent that we might have to start thinking in a couple of years' time as to whether the World T20, Women's World T20, justifies a standalone status, because we don't want everyone to be focused on the men and not on the women's.
Well, of course, it's going to be played on its own, isn't it? In 2018 for the first time.
Yeah, so we'll see how that event goes in the West Indies, and then, as I say, it's just a matter for consideration. There's two schools of thought. Some say they benefit and they love being part of the men's event, and others say no, it deserves to have its own standalone status.
So what's the situation now regarding 2020 cricket and the Olympics? Because we heard a while ago that the ICC board had made a decision. I think you and a few other delegates were to go and meet with the IOC. How did that go, and where does cricket and the Olympics stand now?
Well, that was a preliminary meeting, really, to find out exactly how the IOC views cricket and what it would take for cricket to be part of the Olympics going forward. They made it very clear that if cricket wanted to be part of the Olympics, number one, all the members need to be fully committed. And number two, it needs to be a globally recognized international competition involving the top athletes, in our case, the top cricketers. So they're not interested in beach cricket or six-a-side cricket or any of these other formats. They would want the T20 format to be used at the Olympics. We would also recognize, though, that the Olympics themselves have got a number of restrictions as to the number of events they can accommodate and the number of athletes they can accommodate. And you can imagine if you add a team sport to the Olympics, that significantly has a significant impact on the numbers. So I think the IOC would like cricket, but they would only take us if all the members were fully committed, including India. Now, the matter has been discussed again at the April meeting. Number one, all the member countries have to decide whether they would like to participate and whether there's enough benefit for them, both individually and collectively. And then secondly, we also need to make sure that participation in the Olympics in a T20 event wouldn't devalue our own World T20, and of course that would be counterproductive.
And just finally, given the West Indies won the ICC Under-19 Cricket World Cup in Bangladesh, and they're in both finals here, the men's and the women's, that must be encouraging after many years of West Indies cricket in the doldrums. All of a sudden, a full member showing some signs of growth and enthusiasm.
Well, I'm sure it's going to be great for West Indies cricket in the region. I think everyone recognises they've got exceptional talent, especially in this type of cricket where, it involves attacking batsmanship, and they are uniquely, purposely built really for T20 cricket. The question will be whether they can try and convert those kind of results to the other formats of the game. I'm sure they won't be content just to be T20 specialists. And what I think it has done, though, I'm sure it will, is encourage the youngsters to take up the game rather than taking up any other sports, as they often, the rumours would say. And I think where they're particularly excited is the success of their under-19 team. So it's not just talent amongst the Bravos and the Gales. They've got talent coming through, which is good for the world game, actually.
David Richardson, thank you very much indeed.
Yeah, my pleasure, Brian.